Well, again, we'd like to welcome you to this webinar. We'd like to also welcome as panelists today Dr. Danny Deguire from Northside Independent School District in San Antonio, Texas. Welcome, Danny.
Hello. Yes, thank you very much.
And we have Mayra Lopez from the Austin Independent School District as the Substitute Office Coordinator. Mayra, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is a good group to have, and we appreciate Danny and Mayra joining with us. And Danny and I did this webinar a month ago. Maybe some of you attended that webinar. I did set it to record, and it failed to record. It crashed during the rendering process, and so we decided to host it again. But in the meantime, Mayra and Sky from Austin Independent School District gave a presentation down at the TASPA, Texas Association of School Personnel Administrators, and I was there, and I thought we've got to include this. So we have two webinars, two presentations going on today, and I'm going to speaking very fast, and it's probably going to get worse, so I apologize, but we want to get through all the material here. Those participating, you more than welcome to post comments and questions in the question section, and we will read them and pose them to the panelists and see if we can get your questions answered. We'll also have emails of everyone, so you can email us after the presentation if you'd like more information. This webinar is also being recorded and will be posted on the site, on our website, where you downloaded the handouts. Hopefully you were able to see that. In the chat area is a link to the downloads of the handouts. We won't talk about all the slides that are here, but you do have them in your handouts. Okay, today's session we want to talk about some research findings, some suggestions, and then we'll have Mayra give her presentation from Austin Independent School District, and then any recommendations, some recommendations that we might suggest with that. This topic, I just want to say right off the bat, these are some of the topics that we talk about at the National Sub-Solutions Conference. And Danny, you've been to these before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and this one, we're back at Park City, Utah. We bounce between Jackson Hole, Wyoming and Park City, Utah. But this summer, in July, we'll be at Park City, Utah. And I'm sure this will be a topic that we'll be discussing quite a bit. And it's open. There's the website for more information with that. All right, some of the things that we found out last year in our surveys that we conducted with school districts. Every year we conduct surveys, and you can see what's happening from 2009. That tended to be typical. That what this means is the question was, are you still hiring substitute teachers as of May 15th? And in 2009 and previous, 13% or less of the districts were hiring substitutes, meaning they'd closed it down for the year. In 2010, 40% had stopped hiring. In 2011, 2012, 2013, and above 60% of the districts had stopped hiring. So we found that, and you probably experienced that too, most districts were experiencing a full pool and didn't have to continue hiring substitutes. The question is always raised is how many substitutes should we have? And you folks can comment about this, Danny and Mayra, what you have. We've seen historically it was about 20%, so one sub for every 5. It did get down to 1 for every 3 in 2011, 2012, and now it's starting to drop again. What do you find in your districts? Danny?
I was going to ask Mayra to go first.
Okay, Mayra.
Well, I definitely think that our numbers went up, and so I agree that we need to have more subs for for the amount of absences. We actually monitor it the way the more the absences we have, then the more subs we want to have in our pool.
Uh-huh.
And of course, that's going to be true for all the districts. What we've just found is that our ratio of subs to jobs when we began the year and we were having trouble filling all of our jobs, our ratio was 2.5 to 1, and that used to work for us, but we were running a failed to fill rate of about 10-12%. We were only filling about 85% of our jobs, and we're now up to a 3.2 ratio, 3.2 to 1. And we're much better off. We have a fill rate now of about 95-96%. So we now have some empirical evidence that says 2.5 to 1, it doesn't do it for us. We have to be over 3, and we're at 3.2 right now.
So for what you're saying is for every 100 absences in a given day, you need 320
Right,
substitutes in your pool.
right.
Okay.
Right, and our goal is to have 3 times as many subs as absences per day. So basically the same thing,
Same thing.
3.2 to 1.
Yeah, and I think that's what eSchool Solutions, as one of the vendors out there, also recommends is that ratio of 3 to 1.
Good.
As a goal, at least.
Good. All right. Those who are experiencing shortages, this is what they reported as of, this was last November when we did this. 37% said somewhat severe, 11% said very severe. So the two together is 48% were experiencing during November a shortage of substitute teachers. And they tended to, this is where they fell. Special education was the most severe, trying to fill those classes, and other hard to fill classes. Is this pretty similar to what your districts are?
We actually are, I think, the hardest to fill classes for us is the bilingual classes, and then of course special ed as well. But the main one is bilingual classes.
Okay.
And ours is more closely aligned to the chart that we're looking at. It's special ed classes. Bilingual is also, it's in the other hard to fill classes, so that would still be the second most difficult.
Okay. Some of the problems that have come up that are causing this, some districts are limiting their hours of substitute teachers due to the Affordable Care Act, even though it's not in play right now. Many districts are saying we want to use this as a practice year, so they might be limiting substitute teacher hours. That is a concern, is a problem. More professional development causes shortage. And many individuals in the subpool don't want to work. Cost of fingerprinting might be a hindrance to get individuals in the classroom. Increased teacher absenteeism. Do you know, has that changed any in your districts, absenteeism rates in the last little while?
No, not here, and not in San Antonio.
And actually, here, I started here in the sub office in February, and it's been consistent. So I think it's about the same. Yeah.
Good. Yeah. When several years ago, it had dropped, and it has creeped up because of more professional development in the last couple of years. As districts have more money to spend, it tends to go up. Strategies to increase fill rates. We're going to talk about your current statistics, and I think both of you might be addressing that, or at least later. Your current subs. Can you increase your current subs? How about it? Look at your application process. Is there things that you can do to streamline the application process? How about your advertising and promoting of jobs? Is that getting out? How about your requirements and the pay? Is that a hindrance or an attraction to your district? Some questions that will be asked. Current statistics, understanding the statistics from your automated system. Tell me what you folks do with your statistics.
Mayra?
Well, we definitely look at all of our reports, and luckily we have ASOP, which is a great help, but we do look at our daily report. We look at all of our dashboard reports, which it provides for us. And then we also go back and look at, how we're doing now as opposed to how we were doing at the same time last year. So we look at all of those reports to make sure that we're in a good position.
And I listen to the screaming from the principals that when they phone in to me and read their angry emails when they're having to fill the classrooms with administrators. So we get some immediate feedback when we've got some problems.
Mm-hmm. Right, and the same thing with us as well.
The fill rates by school, by sharing this among principals, they understand that they might not be the only one that's short of substitutes, or they might realize, hey, everybody else is at 98%. How come at 87%? Maybe there's something that they can do in their school to change that. Substitutes to permanent teacher ratio, we've talked a little bit about that, and really sharing with your administrators the issues that the sub office faces can help them understand their role also in helping recruit maybe substitutes that are teachers or volunteers in their schools to come on as as a substitute teacher.
Mhm.
Um, your substitutes are, if we consider them as paid volunteers, often we bend over backwards to make sure our volunteers are appreciated. Substitutes often are, well, maybe considered as paid volunteers, and as we make sure that we include them like we do our volunteers, then by newsletters and reaching out periodically, maybe we can increase their working from 1 day a week to 2 days a week, and often that may be the reason they're only working 1 day as a week. They're a little confused and don't know what's going on. And so by working with them and helping and showing appreciation, we can increase uh, their frequency in working. Also, the low cost, no cost incentives, free tickets to school events, free lunch. Some principals offer free lunch to all substitutes who come into his building. And so they tend to want to work there. Discounts to local businesses. You know, some of these take a little while to put together, but really, if we can provide kind of incentives to our substitute teachers, it goes a long way. And survey your substitutes. I know, Danny, that you have completed a survey. Anything you want to say about the recent survey that you found?
We just completed an online survey. We were able to use the Google Docs for that survey, and we were very pleasantly surprised that they seem to be, substitutes as a group are very pleased with their experiences in the district. We just needed more of them. We had 90% of the respondents indicate that they were either, their experiences were either good or excellent, and so not a whole lot of room for improvement in terms of their overall experiences. But the major issue is still, as we suspected, a need for some training for those people who are working in special ed classes. And the fact that we would have more people working in special ed classes and probably bilingual classes in Austin if we could just provide some additional training for our substitutes.
Okay, good. If you do survey, we can help with that. Those individuals who are participating, we can share with you some of the surveys that have been done. Also, if you do ask, it's good to ask based on your last experience in the classroom what happened that specific day. That's a good indication of what's happening. If you say based on your last day in the schools, what was your experience with, or whatever you want to say, were the lesson plans left, were this, and so you're talking about a specific time. Application process, improve the application process with, are you mailing out or is it online application? Can you process your subs faster? Do you hire all year long? Is that going to be a problem if you shut down and then bring it up again? I know some districts only do it a certain part of the month. They might do it the first 10 days of the month. Some districts keep it open all month long um, and all year long. More frequent orientations. This might be a little difficult, especially if it's a smaller district. It's hard to conduct an orientation with just one or two individuals or 10 when you're used to having 100. So, but that's a consideration. Offer open houses to hard to fill schools. So have an invitation for those individuals that live close to these schools or the hard to fill schools, and say, would you come and take a look at these and offer a training or something? So you're getting them into the schools you want to attract them to. Contacting the students' parents and principal recommendation. I'm going really fast. I'm sorry because I want to get to the other thing. So if you have any comments, please jump in and stop me or ask any questions that you see coming up. Certified teachers, going after our retired teachers. I know many of you do this as far as recruiting from your teachers that are retiring and getting them back in and working through those logistics there. Offering degree candidates, those with a college degree, help to secure a teaching license. With the first right of refusal let me rephrase that. Those that who have a degree, but will take substitute teaching assignments, say we'll make sure that you get a first right of refusal when a vacancy comes up. And so you're encouraging those teacher applicants to be part of your sub pool, asking regular teacher applicants to be part of your sub pool. Some districts are very formal with that, and it tends to work out really well. Okay, advertising and promotion, working with local colleges and universities. We get student teachers all the time, but some districts have negotiated with them to allow them to substitute teach, sometimes within their own building that they're working at. Some even get paid to do that. The universities allowed them to do that. It gives them their own classroom experience as well as um, they're working in a school, more controlled environment than maybe they don't have a supervising teacher on that day, but they do have their class and in a school that they're familiar with. Advertising, many districts are using social media to advertise and promote that they're looking for substitute teachers. Public service announcements also. We've seen news releases go out by districts to local media where they've encouraged people to apply for and come in and or to orientations or to apply with that. Reducing requirements. This has kind of been in the reverse the last couple of years. Many districts have been raising their requirements, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But some districts now are considering a bachelor's degree instead of a teacher's license. Some are increasing pay. Some are offering differentiated pay for hard to fill classes. Some are outsourcing, which is an option to a staffing agency. When we researched this, we found that back in the 2001, 2004 era, 2005, when there was a severe shortage of substitutes, districts who lowered their pay or lowered their requirement or increased their pay, it didn't necessarily equate to more substitute teachers. So by just offering higher pay doesn't necessarily mean that you'll get more substitutes, or by reducing your requirements doesn't necessarily mean you'll get more applicants. When training was involved, it tended to. So if you increase pay with more training, then it tended to increase the pool. Or if you lowered your requirements and then say we're going to offer training to those who have a lower requirement, then they tended to get it. Training tended to be the most common denominator of successful strategies, if you will, to increase the number of substitute teachers. All right. With that said, Mayra, you don't have to talk as fast as I did. and but we're going to turn the time over to you, and I'm also going to turn the screen over to you. And please feel free to talk about as much of your presentation that you have here. And individuals, those who are participating today, please feel free to ask any questions that you have in your chat. Okay, Mayra.
Okay, thank you. So this presentation, Sky, who's my supervisor, and I did at the TASPA just a month ago in December. And basically we covered 5 tools for tackling substitute staffing and fill rates, and we spoke a little bit about the Affordable Care Act and what we're doing. Let me go to the next one. Oh, I went too fast. And so basically we discussed, I'm going to move on to the next one. Basically the 5 tools. The first one is metrics, making sure that we understood how we would be able to, measure all of our any type of reports and measure, the rates and the ratios and all of that to make sure that we were handling each process very carefully. And then recruiting, covering every step that we could to figure out, how are we going about and obtaining and recruiting our substitutes. Compensation, making sure that we were giving our substitutes a good rate and competitive rate, and not only that, but also offering incentives so that we could retain those substitutes. Technology, making sure that our processes were up to date with technology so that we could better work in our office, be more efficient, and then also make it easier for the substitutes to be able to apply and come on board a faster way. Systems integration to make sure that here our HR processes were working correctly, and then also that all of our the way our payroll department, we're getting all of our substitutes paid properly so that there's no issues there, and again making sure that they're keeping them happy and make sure that we're retaining them. going on to metrics, how we measure up to, all of these different reports that we run. And with the district, we have ASOP, which is the substitute management system, and we keep reports on a daily basis. We have our dashboard, we have our daily reports that we run to make sure that we're up to date and we're keeping all of the reports that we need in order for us to be able to keep up with the number of absences and whatnot. And I'm just going to go back real quick. I think I skipped over the AISD at a glance. We are a fairly large school district. If you look here, we have a total of 128 campuses. We do have about 8,300 active employees in ASOP that require substitutes. And we have over 2,500 subs right now that are active, that are covering for those absences. We're averaging about 650 absences per day, and of course with Friday being our highest absence day. So we do have quite a bit of a large school district. We also have our substitute office consists of 5 employees, and so and that includes myself. And now going forward to, I don't think it's going forward.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Okay, so I skipped all of that. Okay, so this is just an example, and I'm just going to briefly go over these reports, but this is an example of our ASOP dashboard and the reports that we run. It has our weekly absence counts, our fill rates. Okay, it's not going to the next slide. And then this is our daily report. Our receptionist here in our office actually runs this on a daily basis, and we report it to our executive director just so that she knows what our rates look like for that day and then for the rest of the week. And as you can see here, our rates have been really good. A weekly analysis, this is another report that we have in order to be able to compare last year to this year and look at those fill rates and see if we're improving or if we're remaining at the same, or if in any case if our rates are going down. And then our monthly substitute stats spreadsheet, and this again is comparing this school year to last school year. In our annual comparison, again, these are all reports that we depend on in order to be able to determine whether we're at a good place or if we need to improve any of our processes.
Do you mind going back one?
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to go back to one as well. On your weekly analysis, where the fill rate seems almost perfect for this year compared to last year, to what do you attribute those differences?
We definitely
those are significant.
We've hired a lot more. Our applicant pool has gone up, as well as the number of hires that we've hired. Just alone this semester, we've hired over 700 substitutes. We do lose quite a few of them in the summer, and so we started hiring earlier. We started holding orientations as early as July. And we did, up to 2 orientations per week right before school started to make sure that we had that good amount of substitutes to start the year off. And so those first couple of months, we actually had wonderful rates. We had, some days that we were at 100%, 2 to 3 days out of the week. But it all attributed to the hiring, holding orientations. We had split orientations into 2 per day and then 2 orientations. So it was really 4 orientations per week.
Did your absentee rate remain stable, or was your absentee rate lower this year?
It was actually, it was a little bit, it was stable compared to last year. We did have about a couple of weeks where it went a little bit higher. Okay. We had more absences than last year, but for the most part, it was attributed to the number of subs that we had in the system.
Okay, great.
Yeah. We definitely sped up how we processed the new hires. That helped a lot as well. Our new hires forms were electronic and were put online, so that helped a lot as well.
Now this one, sorry.
I'll go back.
Okay, your blue and your red lines. So your red is 2011, 2012, and what you're saying is the fill rate dropped quite a bit during the year, and then your blue line is the 2012, 2013. For the beginning of the year to the end of the year, you really improved on that. So
right, and the reason you can see where in October it went down is because that's when we implemented ASOP. And so we were, trying to start the school year and then implement a whole new system. So as you can see, in October, it went fairly down. And then as we progressed and we implemented and everybody got acquainted with the system and we trained everybody, it started to go up for the remainder of the year.
So you just changed systems to ASOP this school year?
In the last school year, in
okay.
2012-13.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
You're welcome. So some of the other metrics that we use is, definitely disseminating information to other departments. Right now we have an agreement with our professional development department where we don't hold professional development on Mondays and Fridays, specifically because those are the highest absence days. And so anytime that there is professional development, it would have to be Tuesday through Thursday. And so definitely having that communication with other departments and emphasizing how important it is and working together has helped. Identifying the weaknesses and gaps, being proactive versus reactive. So making sure that we're on top of things before it gets before we get to where either our fill rates go down and just being proactive overall. Recruiting. In regards to the recruitment process, why we recruit, obviously if we are experiencing a shortage of substitutes, then we definitely have to identify the areas of what we're recruiting for and how we're going to go about it. Right now what we do is, in fact, this Thursday I have a student-teacher orientation in which we do a combo. We do a student-teacher orientation, and then afterwards we do the substitute orientation. And so we sign up all of our student teachers, and the majority of them do sign up to become subs. Last week we had another one, and we had about 200 and some, and all of them stayed for that orientation. So that definitely helps us, make sure that we're recruiting and helping, even if it's just in one classroom, it's helping our rates. At university job fairs, we all of our professional HR coordinators attend those job fairs to recruit for teachers, but then they hire potential candidates that could possibly come in and sub if they're not certified yet, or if there's any, if there's not any mid-year openings as well. We also do social media blasts. We do have a Facebook account with the district, and so we do blasts through there. We have a banner on our website as well. And then we recently opened a Twitter account in which we're trying to, get up and running and put out, things out there to recruit our substitutes as well. Then as far as posting anything on or posting out there anything on advertisements, we really having to do that this year, which has been great. We haven't had to, go to our local newspaper and pay for any advertisements. The other thing is our retirees. At the end of the year, we do send out a letter to all of those who have stated they're retiring. We ask them to come on board, and we hold special orientations for them so that they, can come in at that specific time that they're able to, and just deal with just retirees and not have, outside applicants. Okay. Part of the recruiting and keeping our substitutes is pay. Basically, the nuts and bolts of our sub office. We constantly examine our pay to make sure that we're competitive with other school districts, or just comparing them, to the overall other positions like bus driving, or if they're working in a restaurant or whatnot. We look at that. We're looking at our base rate, how it compares to regular and full-time positions. Right now we feel that we're pretty competitive as far as pay-wise goes. If you look on to the next slide, you can see where our rates right now. We do have 3 different types of teacher substitutes. We have 60 college plus hours. They start at $75 per day, degree certified, and then we offer all of these incentive pays, which based on what we hear from our substitutes, they really work their day so that they can get to all these next increments. If we go to the next slide, you can see where ASOP has actually calculated. I think I went too far. It's not going back.
Backwards is not, sorry. Let me see if I'm going to take the controls back and go backwards. Is that all right?
That's fine. And basically what I was trying to show is our monthly payroll file, and basically that payroll file shows, how...
This one?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
All of our incentive pay and how much a substitute can actually, how high they can start getting paid once they work their number of days and if they're in long-term assignments and whatnot. So this is something, based on what we hear from our substitutes, they really, work those days so that they can get up to those increments and those incentives.
Do you mind if we go back? I'm sorry. I bet to this slide. Sorry, I just did it for you. So
Not a problem.
whether you want to or not, I just did it for you. But do you mind explaining a little bit more about some of these? I think this is quite ingenious what you guys have done.
Yes, so the first three are basically our base rate. So we have our substitute teachers that are 60+ hours, that hold those college hours, degreed and certified. The teacher incremental pay is for our teacher subs. Once they sub 30 days, on the 31st day, they get their base rate plus an additional $20. And then we have another incentive where once they sub 60 days, on the 61st day, they started receiving an additional $20. Which would end up at $40 in addition to their base rate.
And that's not in a specific assignment.
Right, that's just overall days that they've subbed with the district. And then we have the long-term pay, which is, it has to be in a 20+ consecutive day assignment. It would have to be for the same teacher, same campus. And once they sub those 20 consecutive days, they receive an additional $20 on top of the incremental pay. So if you go to the next slide, you can see where they can get up pretty high with all those incentives if they're getting both the incremental and the long-term pay. And then we also offer Friday pay of $5, just because Fridays is our highest absence days. And right now we've kind of been in talks of possibly increasing it to $10 instead of the $5.
Okay.
The other portion of that has helped us a lot in recruiting and staffing and retaining our substitutes is technology. This year we went to a paperless application, and so everything is done online with starting with the application and the new hire forms, getting them RSVP'd and invited to orientation. It's all done via our online application system, which is AppleTrack. And so that has definitely helped us, speed up the process and get them in the application pool and then get them processed into our orientation sessions. The other thing is our payroll has been streamlined to where we've set up ASOP to build a payroll file that automatically calculates our long-term pay, whereas before we actually had to do everything by hand. And it's, reduced the amount of time that we spend on that, and it's also reduced any payroll errors that were happening consistently in the past. So that has helped a lot. The other thing is emails and web alerts. I know that you mentioned that, subs like to be communicated, they like to receive notifications. And so this is a tool that we use to be able to communicate with them in case there's a job out there that we really need, a specialized substitute. So we communicate with them that way, or we communicate with them as far as, if there's any payroll information that needs to go out. We let them know if there's a holiday coming up. We let them know if there's anything going on where they would have to come in late, if it's a bad weather day. So we keep them informed, and then we also, send out occasional emails just showing, appreciation for their hard work. The other is our Twitter and Facebook announcements. We try and use that as well to be able to inform them of anything that might be coming up, or if there's a bad weather day where we're going to have a delay start, or if there's specific needs where we need to recruit a substitute that has a specific certification. And then, of course, right now we're working with ASOP to make sure that we're on the right track to be able to report the hours and also limit the hours for our substitutes. We don't have anything in place yet. We are in discussions of what we need to do in order to be able to comply with ACA. But for right now, we've just been looking at ASOP as far as what we can do as a district to be able to limit those hours, and then also the reporting process as well. And then our systems integration. We've actually been able to set up several integrations between our technology systems that allow them to work together on the back end and basically reduce the time and errors in those processes. One of the most important integrations that we set up was between our HRES system and ASOP. Basically, when an employee is entered into IFAS, they are then set up in ASOP overnight. And I don't think it's going to the next slide, Jeff.
Sorry. Okay.
There we go. And so here you'll see where all of our systems integrate and how everything works together to be able to for us to run our department a little bit more efficient. We also use our application system, AppleTrack, to be able to run batch background checks through DPS and upload those fingerprint requests. And so we do batch uploads, which could sometimes be 40, 80 applicants. So that way we're not, individually going in and doing it on just one applicant. It saves us time, and it's better efficient that way.
You mentioned your application process twice. What's the name of it?
It's AppleTrack.
AppleTrack. Okay, thank you.
We use also the batch upload feature in the State Board for Educator Certification website to be able to get lists of current certifications in order to import skills into ASOP for subs to list their certifications. We're also trying to integrate our ASOP system with our timekeeping system right now. And so we're trying to integrate all these systems in order for us to be able to work better. And so it definitely has saved us a lot of time.
Good.
Okay. And then here it'll just show you everything as far as all the tools that we use: metrics, recruiting, compensation, technology, systems integration, everything that we use in order to be able to keep our goal of being able to manage our substitute services. Let me go back one slide.
Sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
There it is.
So basically this last one is just our construction process. After undertaking an extensive remodel project ourselves, we definitely offer this advice of defining your goals. What is your ideal fill rate? Define your metrics. How will you measure the success of your strategy? And decide on tactics, like what tools can you use to help you accomplish your goals? And then executing your strategy measure and refine. And then our last slide includes our contact information for the district. So that's all that I have.
Good. Can I ask some questions? Some individuals have posed questions, so let me read them
Sure.
to you if you don't mind.
Definitely.
Who makes your personal calls when you can't fill a position? Or do you?
We do. We do here at the substitute office. We definitely try and call out if it's an urgent need. But for the most part, our campus substitute coordinators at the campus level will call out, either preferred subs that they know that are not working, or substitutes that they know that normally have come in and filled jobs. So it starts up at the campus, and then if it's an urgent need that they need to fill and they can't find anybody, then they call us and we start calling out.
Great. How do you use your student teachers?
We do use them. We make sure that they talk to their university liaison to make sure that they're able to sub after a certain number of weeks that they've student taught. Once they're ready, then we do allow them for them to sub for their mentoring teacher. And then once they're done with that assignment, we do allow them to substitute whatever campus they want to sub at.
I see.
And then a lot of the times, if they're not hired on as a teacher, they stay on board and they continue to sub for the following school year as well.
Good. Would you, and then Dr. Deguire, if you'll talk about your what do you include in your orientation process?
Our orientation, we do have one day that's cut into 2 sessions. Our morning session starts at 8:30 and our afternoon one starts at 1:30. And basically what we cover is we start off with our emergency management coordinator, who basically goes over safety at the campus level and what subs should know in case there's an emergency situation. And then we do have a retired principal. We have several that come in and facilitate the orientation. They go over our substitute teacher handbook, and then they spend the majority of the time dealing with classroom management, and then going over our ASOP system.
Good.
And in Northside in San Antonio, we do essentially the same thing. We spend about 2/3 of the time going over policies and procedures. And when Mayra talks about going over the handbook, that's where she probably has the information on all the policies that are going to be binding on these substitutes, including the sexual harassment all the other policies that they need to be aware of, alcohol, drug use, and everything else that's in there. We spend about 2/3 of the time on that. We spend some of the time then with the risk management pieces, the safety issues, and we have our safety officer from the risk management department come in and do that part of the orientation. We spend some time recruiting for special ed. We have someone from our special ed office come over and give a brief overview of special education for the purpose of giving a level of awareness to the substitutes regarding the students with special needs, and how as substitutes they'll be working with them on a daily basis, whether they're in a special ed classroom or not. And that helps a little bit with recruitment for special ed, and that's a part of our orientation actually. But otherwise I think we're very similar. Ours is not nearly as long. Ours is just one morning only, but it's almost 3.5 hours.
And that's the same thing with ours. We have one day, but it's split into 2 sessions. So the morning session is about 3 hours long, and so is the afternoon as well.
So it's either morning or afternoon.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, another question is: do you require your subs? Do you give your subs a badge or an ID card that they carry with them? What do you do there?
Yes, we do. We actually, once we've processed them into our HRIS system and they've come and they upload into ASOP, they receive a welcome email that gives them the instructions to come to our police department to obtain their substitute ID badge. And they don't have any access on that badge. However, if for some reason they're going to be a long-term sub or they're going to be permanent at the campus, then we can give them access to open the doors and whatnot.
Do you pay any of your permanent teachers more if they fill in for another teacher during their planning period?
We don't. They just, they receive all those increments once they, they've subbed a certain amount of days, and they start receiving all those extra increments.
Okay.
But I think, Jeff, you're referring to when you're unable to get a substitute and the regular teachers fill in for them, do they get compensated?
Right. Yes.
And we do in Northside, yes. I think the rate is $17 an hour for each person who fills in.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question.
So yes, that's the question. Do you compensate any other a permanent teacher who's teaching next door, just like Dr. Danny has mentioned? Do you compensate them if they happen to fill in during their prep period to cover another class?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do most of you teachers have their favorite list of 5 subs or so? Do they have a preferred list?
Most of our teachers do, and in fact, ASOP has a tool where they can set up the preferred list, and so we've gotten a lot of calls from our teachers trying to figure out how they can set up their list of preferred subs. So for the most part, the teachers have their preferred list, and then the campus sub coordinator is able to list her preferred subs as well. So yeah, our preferred list is pretty long.
Our teachers also have their favorite subs, which gets kind of interesting over a period of time, because they're often fighting after the same good substitutes. They're going after them. That's why they're hesitant to recommend substitutes to us, because they don't want to let them go out into the general pool.
Yeah, that happens a lot to us as well.
All right. How many do you usually attend your orientations?
We have usually the average is about 90. We have usually about 45 in the morning and then 45 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay. Good, because ours is about the same. We have between 35 and 40 in each session, but we just have the one session a day. But we do have 2 to 4 a week. During the July and August time period, we wind up doing about 4 orientations a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pam Jones, one of our participants today, has said, we videotape our orientation speakers this year so we can have our subs come in and be trained when there's not a session going on. That's a good idea.
That is a
great
idea.
Yeah. What we've done is something similar to that. We have an online orientation, which is, I think it's self-paced program where they can get the same information that you would get during the orientation without the interaction between the teacher and the presenter and the participants. But we certainly prefer that they attend the actual live orientation. But if we have some special requests that demand it, and we have to get someone out there for a principal to have the substitute that they need in the classroom, we will allow them to go through the online orientation, but then they must attend the next available live orientation. So it's kind of a stopgap in order to get them out there.
Well, good. This has been very helpful. We'll answer a few more questions here in a minute, and maybe during this next little section. We have a few more minutes, but I do want to talk about one of the recommendations that we suggest is that you put together a subcommittee, a committee on substitute teaching. So you might have a principal as a member, you might have a permanent teacher or two as a member, substitutes as a member, and so each of the stakeholders, each of the different organizations have a representative there, somebody from this main office. But that group then talks about substitute teaching as a district-wide overall kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on, and maybe some practices, policies, and procedures that could be changed to make your district more sub-friendly, to address maybe a shortage, to address how to do recognition, and pay for substitutes maybe can come up once a year, but that's not what you're going to talk about. It's not a gripe session for I wish the subs would do this, or I wish the permanent teachers would do this, but it's a time to be able to discuss as a district focused on substitute teaching. So it's not just the sub office saying, boy, I wish we could do this. You might get buy-in from the principals, buy-in from the teachers by having a group like this. Also to offer college level training for non-certified substitutes. As I mentioned earlier, this is probably one of the key components of keeping good quality individuals who maybe don't have a teaching degree but would do very well in the classroom by doing it prior to employment, and they can make sure that they have the skills. And then ongoing, Arnie Duncan, the Secretary of Education, said that 62% of permanent teachers coming out of their training and on their first day of the job felt very inadequate to be in the classroom. Well, substitute teachers, particularly non-substitutes, would feel that way as well, or much more than that. And so we want to make sure we have initial and ongoing training for them. And don't be afraid to set high expectations, so they feel like they're the part of the Marines, the few, the proud, the Marines, if you will. So they feel very part of their doing a service, because they're coming in and saving a classroom, and the permanent teacher has to be out of the classroom. We want to make them to feel like that they're heroes in coming into that. This slide, some of the things that are offered, and I think both of you used the handbook for live training, the substitute teacher handbook that's provided by steady.org. We have online training for sub skills. A number of districts use that as initial training as well. Paraeducator training is important, special education, to encourage individuals to go into special education. Strategies to reduce demand. We talked about teacher absenteeism, but reduce release time, address professional development, make sure that we're not having professional development on what we know are challenging days to fill subs, maybe negotiating with staff development to say, look, we'll get you enough substitutes if we can use some of your budget to help train our subs so they're adequate. Sometimes there's a disparity between the two organizations, but yet they could work very well if they have the same goal in helping with that. Coordinating calendar. Some districts have a good coordinating calendar, so all the professional developments are plugged into the calendar, so there's no overlapping problems with that. And so those are some suggestions and ideas with that. One of the questions was, how do you encourage a school that has a low fill rate to look at themselves, and what do you do? And there is this sub-friendly site, steady.org/subready. There's a 6-minute video that we posted there that we encourage districts to use to look at and to share with their principals and all the permanent teachers. It's a little video with a sub stream. He dreams he gets assignment to a class and to a school, and he goes to the school and his experience as he comes in to the school, to the classroom, and with the students, and it really kind of points out some of the areas that maybe we might be lacking in, making sure that we're very friendly and and what we can do about that. So that's at steady.org/subready. That's a free video. You're more than welcome to share that with your schools and with your permanent teachers on how to prepare for substitutes. There's some downloadable articles on there as well. Buildings do compete for substitute teachers, and so we want to make sure that they know. Is there anything that you do specifically to help a school that has a low fill rate change that?
Well, I think we try and first of all, talk with the campus sub coordinators and with the principal and administration, and first make sure that the subs that are going, make sure that they're treated well, because we want them to come back. And then we try and encourage all of our new subs, to be able, if they're experienced subs, if, for example, retirees, to try and go out to those campuses where we know the absences are a little bit higher and the fill rates are a little bit lower. So those are some of the things that we've done.
Uh-huh.
And in Northside, because of the experience we had this fall with the high number of failed to fill classrooms, and at the same time feedback we've gotten from the substitutes, at least anecdotal information, that campuses in some cases just aren't friendly. We're going to be having a administrator seminar this summer as a part of our Administrator Institute that addresses this issue, and we're going to get some of your materials, Jeff, and just lay it out there for these folks and let them know what they need to do in order to meet and greet the substitutes and make them feel welcome there.
Good. All right, thanks. Sub recognition goes a long ways when we make sure that the subs feel like they're appreciated. That goes a long ways. And communicating with the school contact person. Both of you probably have a way to work with your coordinator in each of the buildings, and so they know what's going on, and you hear from them directly as well.
Right, that is correct. And what we do is usually when we have the Substitute Appreciation Week, we try and send out emails and communication to that sub-contact person to make sure that they have some sort of, recognition flyer or card or whatever it could be to those subs that are coming in for that particular week. And we also try to use email to send out, emails to those subs for that particular week at that campus or whatnot. So we use communication as far as email to be able to, recognize them on those special days.
Good. Sub week.
Yeah,
the sub week this year is the first full week in May, and we'll be hosting our giveaways as well again this year. So I hope everyone participates with that. So watch for those announcements. That's good time to have a fun time with your subs. Okay, a few more questions if you don't mind. How do you decrease the call-offs? Those that call in, they take an assignment and then they they cancel the morning of. What do you deal with those? How do you deal with those issues?
We've actually we have a feature with our system where if they cancel 24 hours within their assignment time, then the system will automatically put them in as a non-work day. So they won't be able to pick up any other job. And then we do, there's also a button that we have that is a no-show button. So if they don't come in for that particular assignment that they were assigned to, then we can go in and click on that, and it'll show an ASOP that this person does have a no-show. And so we're able to determine, if after 3 no-shows, do we go ahead and exclude them from that campus, or, do we send them a letter advising them of that? So those are some of the things that we have in place right now.
We have similar technological support from eSchool Solutions in terms of those kinds of announcements. And but in addition to that, we take very seriously the complaints from the campuses that we get when they get a no-show. We have pretty much zero tolerance for a no-show, no-call. we will cancel. We will put that sub on that campus's do not use list with even one of those. They'll just have to try and do better at the other schools. But we use some pretty strict disciplinary measures as well. Not just we act on the reports that the systems are giving us.
I see. Do you know what your turnover rate is in your sub pool, and what do you do to help reduce that turnover rate?
From year to year?
Uh-huh.
Golly, I think we're at around. We have about 60% come back each year, 60 to 70% each year. So, we need a pretty good number each year to come into the system. How about you, Mayra?
Ours is similar. I think ours is about 50%, because we do hire a lot of our substitutes into full-time positions. So we do lose quite a bit during the summer time frame.
Yeah, there are some historical trends that you alluded to earlier, Jeff, that come to play. But I think probably you're right, Mayra. Ours is closer to 60, not 70, because we're hiring so many of them, and the rest of them are just moving on. It is a transient population.
Do you bill the teacher recruitment office for bringing these teachers to them? You're hiring, you're providing a pretty good service for them, and not getting compensated for it, is all I'm saying.
Sounds good, Mayra. Sounds good.
It actually works. It happens through the entire school year. We'll hire them, and then within a week, they'll be hired on in a full-time position. So it's a cycle. It just happens.
Yeah.
They're continuously depleting our substitute pool.
Definitely.
Now, Mayra, you have 5 in your sub office. What about you, Danny?
We have 3 others besides myself.
Okay. Let's see. How do you? Okay, I think we pretty much answered. Oh, there's a few more. Do you mind if individuals email you directly with the questions after the webinar?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, very, very welcome.
Good. Good. Are your subs required to be flexible? For example, when a school is short, they ask, let's see, when a school is short on subs and teachers are covering during their prep periods, if a sub is asked to sub during their prep period and they refuse, what do you do in that situation? How do you encourage them to, I guess, to make sure that they're very flexible?
We list flexibility at the very top of our skills list that the substitute has to have when they come to us, and if they're inflexible, if they simply say that they're not going to do it, it's probably going to result in some sort of disciplinary action, because they know that we need for them to be adaptable and flexible, and that's just part of our orientation as well.
Right, that's very similar to what we have as well. In fact, we have it in our handbook, where it states that that during that planning period, they are, if they're requested to go and do other duties as assigned, then they have to go and complete those duties. Or if they're put in another classroom, then that's another job that they pick up. But they're specifically told during orientation and also in our handbook that they have to be very flexible.
Good. Now that's a good way to be as flexible. It definitely needs it in this job.
Right.
Well, our time is up, and we've crammed a lot of information in this hour, and but this has been very helpful. Appreciate you two participating as panelists and presenters in this webinar, and we hope that those who've participated today have gotten some good ideas. There are a lot of good ideas presented here today, and we will host these every so often, these webinars, but we definitely will cover this during the Sub Solutions Conference in Park City this coming July. And so with that, we'll want to thank you too, and thank everyone for participating today. And
thank you for the opportunity, Jeff.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.